Did it just get colder? Maybe a winter breeze. Felt it on my shoulders.
Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode of our Artist Spotlight series featuring some of the best independent artists in North America. And today we have a very special guest, an Edmonton native. She's recently released her singles The Quiet and Tingle with us, and previously released her song Together Alone, which had some amazing traction on Spotify. It was added on the official Vocal Jazz playlist and already has over 8,000 streams. Amazing. A proud Canadian Filipina who stands for equality and currently resides in Los Angeles. Welcome, Samantha Schultz.
Thank you for having me, Jay. I'm really excited to be here.
You're welcome. It's so nice to finally have you on the show. We've had to
Oh,
push
you
it
guys
a few times, but we're here now.
finally made it. We did.
Yeah. So let's get through some of the fun facts about you. You're a fellow Filipina, so tell us, what's your favorite Filipino dessert or food or both?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm still trying to do a lot of learning outside of the basic dishes that everybody kind of knows, but honestly, they're dishes that everybody knows because they're such a hit, right?
Mhm.
So I'm a huge lover of lumpia, and pancit is actually one of my favorites. My mom, she has her goddaughter, her mother. Whenever I'm home, she comes with trays of pancit. Just like as soon as she hears that I'm home, it's like, all right, I'm making it. Tell me when to drop it off. So that's a very nostalgic dish for me. I really, I really enjoy that one.
Yeah, and that's a very Filipino thing to do is drop off food to people. So
If you're not eating, you should be eating.
yeah, exactly. And lumpia, I mean, that's like one of my favorites too. At a party, they go like this, that and turon, anything that's like spring roll. I love that.
There's like a secret life that I wish that I had of just waiting and reviewing spring rolls across the world. Like, just that's an alternate reality I wish I could live.
Hey, you never know.
You never know.
So your mom, you said, was Filipina. Have you ever been to the Philippines before?
I haven't, and I would really, really love to go. I think that over the last, gosh, handful of years that I've really been purposefully diving into understanding the history better and the culture better and just everything that I can get my hands on in terms of understanding my roots better, the more and more I want to go.
Right.
I do have family over there. I know actually through my dad's side, which is really funny because he's of European Canadian descent. So
Wow.
somehow we have Australia via the Philippines or something like that. So they're like, anytime you want to come, like come over. It's just a matter of getting there, and
Hmm.
so hopefully,
Yeah, and that'd be cool. Maybe you can even perform there one day, who knows?
I would be honored.
Honestly,
I would
I,
be
I
so
think I think he'd make it big over there in the Philippines, to be quite honest.
happy to try.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up Filipina for you?
That's a really good question. Growing up, my sister and I, we understood that we were mixed, and I guess that's kind of where it was left. We were what we were, and there was never really kind of a big deal made out of it, which I really appreciate. That I've
Mhm.
always kind of been able to exist as me and what I am. Um, we did get the chance to go to Filipino gatherings and family events and everything when I was younger. But as I started to get older, the identity of being Canadian kind of took over. Canada, it's such a melting pot, right? So
Mhm.
to be Canadian can mean so many different things. And I think that was just kind of the quote unquote easier overarching title to have, being who I was, and knowing
Mhm.
that I don't speak Tagalog and that I don't know how to cook any traditional dishes. I've been trying my best via the internet. There are a lot of really good features on the internet. Um, but we just didn't have these tangible things that kind of propelled that the Filipina identity forward in who we were. So
Mhm.
being Canadian just kind of was the easier thing while understanding, yeah, we actually are half Asian and it's a really fun thing and we're really proud of it. But that's kind of where it stopped. And not that it was anybody's fault. I think it's just the fact that it wasn't made a big deal, I think is what kind of just allowed my sister and I to be like, this is who we are and
Mhm.
cool, great,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure. So what does, like, for your Filipino side, what does that mean to you? What do you want to tell other artists who are kind of, mixed or Filipino, or even tell non-Filipinos about Filipino people?
Right.
Right?
That's a really um my journey into understanding being a mixed person has been a really interesting one. There are
Mhm.
times where I'm like, this is such a unique and amazing position to be in, to have two different perspectives, to be at this crossroads where a lot of people never in their lives are experience a different type of culture where everything that they live and their reality is in their backyard. So the fact that I got that from the get-go
Mhm.
of this side of the world and this side of the world, and somehow that's manifested in me. That's been such an incredible thing for me. There are other times where I feel like I can't tick a box. Like I
Mhm.
can't find myself in this camp, or I can't find myself in this camp because
Right.
I either feel way too white, I can't speak the language. I like I know that I look more like my dad even than my sister. She looks much more like my mom in my opinion.
Mhm.
And when I go over to the white side of things, I'm like, okay, I know I'm not like totally over here.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of a weird journey to be able to find your voice and your identity when you feel torn. And
Mhm.
I guess I've been learning over time that it's okay to feel more Philippine one day and to feel more Canadian one day. I
Mhm.
think that's the beauty of being a mixed person, is that you don't have to choose
Right.
um, where you have to steadfast be. Like, you've been given this chance in life to straddle the line, and I think that's a really valuable thing. Does it make it easy every day to understand and process what it's like when you can't really plant a flag in one place or the other? Yeah, it gets confusing and it gets weird, and
Mhm.
and sometimes you feel like you don't belong. But I
Mhm.
guess anybody who's wanting to be a figure, or anybody who's just trying to live their life as a mixed person, I think that you are who
Mhm.
you are and you don't choose one side or the other. I think that's the beauty in being mixed, is I am, you
Mhm.
are what, and that's your power, that's your uniqueness, and
Yeah.
no two mixed people are alike. So it's like, that makes you even more unique in a sense.
Mhm.
That even within a mixed community, there's no one who has been mixed exactly like you.
Yeah.
And I think it brings perspective to the table as well. For me, being Canadian on one side and then Philippine, these are two very, very different coming to be places. Canada
Mhm.
is what it is, and the Philippine has such a complex crossroad history of its own, where
Yeah.
it's had to be this melting pot or mix of cultures, and not because it necessarily wanted to, but that's kind of what was forced upon it.
Right.
So I don't know. There's power in having a place in each different spot. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
for some
Yeah.
people that's multiracial. For me, that means biracial. So there are people
Mhm.
that can put, step foot into five different places and feel like they could belong, which I
Yeah.
think is so incredible. So I don't
Yeah.
know. You are who you are. Your power is in being mixed,
Yeah.
and even sometimes it may be confusing. It's
Mhm.
it's something that makes you really, really special, and I really
Yeah.
believe that.
And it's funny that you say that because you are mixed, right? You're Canadian and Filipino, whereas I was born here in Canada, but I'm fully Filipino, but I still have struggled with identity because I'm not from the Philippines. So there's
Right.
even that complexity of, oh, you don't speak the language, or you're not from the Philippines, so it's not exactly the same as being Canadian Filipino. So there's so
They're
many
like different
complex
things.
things. Yeah.
It's so true. And you know what? I feel like a lot of that has even translated to me moving to America.
Hmm.
I'm finding that in my life, it's become this crossroads in general. I keep saying that word, but that's generally how I feel,
Yeah.
in my, where I was born in Canada, but I've been living in America for over a decade now. I'm half Canadian, I'm half Philippine. I play the guitar, maybe not good enough for the guitarists, But, you know, I also sing that I'm maybe not a singer, but like I'm still in both camps. And so I'm learning to embrace um, this life where it's like I get a little bit of everything, and I'm really grateful for that. But sometimes it gets really confusing. I'm like I'm
Yeah.
Canadian, I live in America, but there's some things about America that I'm like I don't necessarily agree with that. But then there are
Yeah.
things that I try to bring from America that I'm trying to change perspectives of
Hmm.
good Americans that I know, people that don't fall into the stereotypes, people that don't want, you know, all the things that are in the news that people associate Americans with. The people that
Hmm.
I know are incredible, and they don't believe in these
Yeah.
ways of running a country or treating people, and so yeah, I think it all goes both ways. It's a perspective thing, and it gets really confusing
Yeah.
sometimes.
No, but you brought up some really great points there, and I think a lot of people who are listening to this will have that kind of same thought process as you, because there has been so much divide in the world these days that, which side are we taking? But let's just try to understand each other, and I think that's really what you're trying to say, right? Is just to understand each other's perspectives.
Yeah, I think so. Ultimately, we're human, and there are just some basic core values of like you don't treat people a certain way, you
Yeah.
know, and I highly doubt that us as individuals, whatever side you're on, you don't want to have somebody bust down your door in the middle of the night. And honestly, I could talk about this stuff forever. It's been very eye-opening for me here in America, and I think it's something that I'm very grateful for. It allows me to understand a whole part of life or someone's reality that's not my own.
For
And I think
sure.
that's extremely valuable. Like your reality is not the only reality out there, you know,
Hmm.
and just because it's not happened to you or you're not able to relate to it, that doesn't mean that someone else hasn't been through that pain
Yeah.
or process, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. It sounds like you've definitely seen different worlds, in your years of experience, living, not just living, but also as a musician and recording artist. Tell us a little bit about your history as a working musician and recording artist. I know you've done this for a really long time now.
I'm grateful to have. Gosh, I've loved music since I was a kid. And my folks, they played music in the house. My mom sang, she played piano when she was a kid. I feel like it was always just kind of there. In terms of Filipino culture, that's one of the things that people know most about Filipinos is that they're so musical and they
Hmm.
can be incredibly talented across all spectrum of the arts, which is so cool. I love
Hmm.
that fact about the Philippine culture. Um, but yeah, so it was something that I was always drawn to, that I really loved. I went through the whole singing lessons, guitar lessons thing. It brought me to talent competitions in my city, which eventually brought me to applying for an art school in Edmonton, the Victoria School for the Arts, which is where I was really able to learn how to read music and work with people in a choir, and I played clarinet, and I did all these active things with fellow creatives, and was taught by teachers that were so incredibly passionate about the arts and being able to deliver them to students in a fun and exciting way. And
Hmm.
paralleling that journey, I was also growing up in the folk music community in Edmonton, and they really taught me a whole lot of what it was just like to be a jam musician or to listen properly or to I could just go on and on. They taught me so much, and they were an incredible safe space for me to begin exploring my music and my writing, and they gave me the chances to be able to get to a point where you know, I'm auditioning for Berklee College of Music, which is crazy.
Wow.
You know,
Mhm.
that going to college was never really on my radar in the last kind of couple years of high school, where my music was doing well enough that I was thinking, you know what, I don't want to have to deal with more tests or exams or have to schedule classes or whatever. Like I really just want to dive headlong into doing music full time. And
Hmm.
it was actually my best friend back home. She and I have been best friends since we were like 13. Um, and she told me when I told her I wasn't going to audition, she said, "What is the worst thing that could happen?" And I said, "Well, I wouldn't get in, obviously." And she said, "Right. And you'd go right back to doing exactly what you're going to do. So what is there to lose with this audition?" And she really is the one that pushed me to confirm that audition
Wow.
time at Berkeley.
Hmm.
And it went incredibly well, and I was so incredibly blessed to receive a scholarship from Gary Slate, who is well known in the radio industry in Canada. His family, I'm not sure if they're still putting forth a scholarship, but at the time I was the second ever to receive a full ride scholarship to Berkeley, and they were choosing one Canadian student applicant at the time to be given the scholarship. And just it is beyond words to say how much they changed my life, how much Gary literally altered the course of my life. I would not be sitting in a home studio in Los Angeles doing what I do if he hadn't seen potential in me, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
That's an amazing story.
it still blows my mind every time I talk about it, because I just, to put into words how much it means that someone is like, "You're worth every penny of this, and you need to go to the school because I just know what you're going to get out of this."
Yeah.
Gary didn't know me from a hole in the ground, you know? And
Yeah.
it just is, it's such an honor, I think is the word, to
Hmm.
be chosen amongst so many impeccably talented
Hmm.
people that were also applying to the school. It
Yeah.
just is, it's beyond me. So thank you, Gary, if you're watching.
Well, you are definitely deserving of it. You're so talented. You've got such a beautiful voice. You've got such a beautiful story to you and your music. You've been traveling a lot for this music, like you said. It brought you to LA. How does the music industry differ, you think, from Canada to the US, or even from Edmonton to LA to Texas?
Oh my gosh. I mean, every city kind of, or I guess country on a larger scale, they have their own versions of how they do everything. Edmonton was such a warm and welcoming and patient and kind, enabling city, you know.
Yeah.
When it comes to the arts, there very much are few cities that are comparable to Edmonton in terms of how in love the city is with putting the arts on display, and
Hmm.
whatever vein that is, whether it's visual or performance or music or dance or it's just every time I go home, there's always some new installation. There's always a program going on. There's always a show happening. And that's something that I really value about Edmonton, is that they themselves value the arts so much,
Yeah.
so much. Um, Now, moving to Boston for college, it was kind of cool. Boston was its own microcosm of the industry. Berkeley was its own microcosm of the industry. And it was a really cool way for me to get my butt kicked by the future of the music industry. You know,
Yeah.
when I received the scholarship and it was confirmed that I was going, I was like, all right, I'm ready to be a sponge. I'm ready to go there and learn everything that I humanly can to be the best version of me that I can put forward musically and music business wise. And so Edmonton to Boston wasn't too much of a shock in terms of the music industry.
Hmm.
I know a lot of my friends went out and did the gig band thing, so they would go out and play
Yeah.
for weddings, for corporate events, and because I was an international student, I never had the option to be able to do that
Hmm.
in terms of visa complications and whatnot.
Right.
Um, Moving to LA, that's really where I had the chance to cut my teeth in terms of the working, gigging musician life. I had to learn really, really quickly that even from Boston, that you can't get by on your own original music here. And it's
Wow.
I wish you could. I truly wish that you could, but it's in when it's paired with California, with LA. They're just expensive places to live because everybody wants to live here, and when you need to make money, you need to make money, and that was a big mental shift that I needed to take when I got to LA from playing stuff all the time, jamming with friends and colleagues, and doing performances to now all of a sudden, oh, my rent is due and I
Yeah.
$2 short. I need to figure out where the next paycheck is coming from.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. LA is its own intense beast of an animal when it comes
Hmm.
to industry. There are so many different levels of it and parts of it that you can be a part of.
Hmm.
Um, Really, it makes it incredibly enticing, but it's being able to open the door to those opportunities that I think is always the difficult part. And I would say that for
Right.
anywhere where people are trying to make it and make it or, be fulfilled in terms of an arts career. It's always kind of about who you know and
Hmm.
where knock on the door and be like, "Hey, I can do the job," or "I'm who you're
Right.
looking for." I think that's kind of the mental game that you have to play in LA, that you have to be ready to play.
Hmm.
Um, Being an introvert, naturally, it's been a little bit of a difficult thing for me to learn, for me to understand. I get quite anxious socially. And so to be in these settings where you have to put on your best self and you have to come across a certain way and still be confident, yet still be humble, yet be cool, but be
Right.
excited. Weird a weird thing that I have struggled to learn. But
Yeah.
I think the communities that I have come to be a part of are just some of the greatest people that I'm just so grateful to know and to work with as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I follow you on Instagram and I see the gigs that you're getting and that you've been on. You're meeting some amazing people and working with some amazing people. Um, and you're just living the life in LA. And everyone, I guess, who's watching your socials probably don't know this backstory to everything, right? So,
Yeah, real story. The real
so we released "The Quiet with You." Tell us what inspired you to write that song. What was the thought process behind the music video?
For sure. So The Quiet was a song that I wrote last year, kind of a couple months after the pandemic had started having whisperings about something weird was happening, and ultimately it blew up into what it blew up into.
Hmm.
And I had a mentor who, for a while, had been asking me to write a song about truth and whatever that meant to me. And I think it was spurred by kind of um, the last president and what was swirling around
Right.
that controversy,
Hmm.
and how important truth was and still is in a time where everything can be fabricated on the internet. Everything
Hmm.
can be, deep faked or can be false. I think she was just trying to call to um, writing a song that we were able to talk about what being truthful really means to us and why it's important.
Hmm.
And so that pivoted when the pandemic hit to be truthful about how you're feeling right now as a
Right.
musician. As all musicians know, like our careers and our jobs and our work and our performances were just had the plug pulled
Hmm.
within a matter of seconds. Really
Yeah.
wild. Um, so when you're sitting on the couch and all that you can do is when you can't see anybody in a world where you can't interact with anyone
Hmm.
and um, your only window to the outside world is through media and through social media and television and the news, and you're
Yeah.
just being hit with this barrage of craziness for it ended up, and it still is kind of ongoing, for a long time.
Hmm.
And mentally, it was a lot.
Hmm.
And for someone who I would say I'm lucky in my life that I've not had to deal with some of the awful things that many people deal with from the inception of their life, that I was heartbroken every single day.
Right.
Heartbroken for people who were fighting for the literal basic right to be recognized as human beings, fighting for people who were fighting for respect as medical professionals, people who were fighting for, the right to be protected, that were out still working while there's this crazy disease going on that no one really had a hold on or knew much about.
Right. Yeah.
Heartbreaking to watch every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So this song was born out of that, of not really knowing what to do or what to say, or knowing the right words, or knowing how to support people without making it look performative or false, or whatever the word is. It was just kind of written in a moment where I just wanted to be able to say something, but I knew that coming from my position as a person, that I didn't necessarily have a whole lot to speak on.
Right.
I didn't feel like I had a whole lot to speak on, when people who were much more qualified and who needed to have the spotlight were finally being able to come forth and speak their truths. I didn't want to detract from writing a song and having it be like, oh, I support you, I'm this, I'm whatever. I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be a song about sometimes we don't know what to do sometimes we don't know what to do when something unprecedented, like a once in a lifetime rare disease, comes around and the world you don't know what to do in that type of situation.
Yeah.
It's with the perfect kind of cocktail that seemed to be happening at the time. And so this song was about, like, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear or need to hear or should be hearing. This is about a moment where you can cry, you can talk my ear off if you want to. I will hold you. It is for whatever you need right now.
Right.
And when I wrote the song, it was just stillness from all the craziness happening on TV, all the craziness on social media, and yeah. So I'm grateful that it resonated seemingly. Lots of people just not knowing what to say either. I know that for a lot of people, this was the first time that they were having to kind of have a reckoning with themselves in terms of, my life may be comfortable, but oh my God, I never knew.
Right. I think it was really well represented what you're saying about the song in the video. Like, you were by yourself in this room that was like lit with just natural daylight, with the curtains, transparent white curtains, just kind of flowing in the wind, and you just being really reflective and introspective of those thoughts that you were just expressing in that song. I found it was such a beautiful way to just focus in on the lyrics and to really listen to the lyrics, and really, tell the public, tell, everyone what you're trying to say about, hey, everything that's going on in this world. Yeah, I'll be here for you, and I'll be that person. Or maybe even you needed someone at that time to just be with,
Definitely. That was my husband for sure, getting me through. He's been my rock for many, many years now, and I can't imagine what it would have been like for people who didn't have anyone through the pandemic, where we really could not see anybody, and for safety they weren't going to see their families or their friends, that they were really alone. And the music video, that you nailed it. It was about making sure that the attention was on the words of the song. Being alone in that space where it was completely concrete but had softness in the curtain. We really loved the contrast of, that's life. There's a lot of really hard stuff, and there's a lot of really, horrible things that people go through in this life. But I know, even if they're fleeting moments, there are moments of softness, and there are moments of light, and there are moments of growth. And I don't know if you catch it, like right at the beginning and right at the end, there's a plant like right in the corner. And I love looks against the concrete walls, because it shows that even in places of hardness and coldness, there still can be growth and there still can be life.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really grateful to come across that space. There are a lot of really, really neat spaces here in Los Angeles to shoot in, and
Yeah.
grateful to have come across that one.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And the contrast between the white and the black, and like you said, the plant. I noticed it obviously because I love plants. So I was like, that's beautiful. But it was it was minimalistic. It was just really well shot. Who was the director of the video, or whoever filmed the video?
So director was my good friend Nick Goldston, and we went to college together. He's been a longtime friend and really has been the guy behind the camera for the last few videos that I've put out, and it's just been a really, really cool way to continue a friendship that has already been over long. Wow,
Yeah.
Nick, we've been friends for years. How do you like that?
Nick, you did a great job. But the angles that he took of you, like, just it could have been just you and filming you, right? But just the fact that he took it around you, the whole song, very slowly as you're singing the song, was
Yeah.
just kind of like, we're looking at you and we're like, what is she thinking in her head? She's singing this song. How is she feeling right now? But it's making the audience feel that way. So he did a really, really great job in the shots that he took. Gotta say,
Oh,
yeah.
he would be thrilled to hear that. Yeah, it was funny how the happened to be a one continuous shot. It just was naturally the decision.
Yeah.
I think allows for reality in between the moments. You
Mhm.
know, you can sing a line and sing what it means behind the line, but it was having to make sure that I was tapped into that space the entire time that he was shooting. And I
Mhm.
think that brings a lot of the beauty into the video, is that it's not splice, 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 splice. That you
Yeah.
really make sure that's like, all right, I need to be where I need to be in order to make sure that this comes across as authentically as possible.
And this was the first song in a long time that you had released. So
Yes.
it really came out well, and I knew you wanted to just release this. It was a slow song, and usually, first releases are an upbeat song, whatever. But you were really, really, like adamant about releasing this as a first song. I agreed. I thought it was a beautiful song, and it was with the times. It was what was happening at that moment, and I think a lot of people would have related to it, and I think they did. So it was a good time to release it. It was beautiful. My son watches it still all the time. He watches all your videos, by the way.
He is so cute.
Yeah. Even just before, he's like, "Mommy, can we watch Tingle again?" You know.
Oh my gosh. I need to give him some of my royalties. He's the one where I get those streams.
Right. But um, following the first single,
Mhm.
you went to Together Alone. Would you say that this would be the follow-up song to that, like a sequel kind of thing to it, or?
I think so. So this song, The Quiet, was produced by another dear longtime college friend and incredibly talented pianist and artist, Dave McKay. He's
Mhm.
from McKay. And we did all the production and recording remotely. So he was over back home when we put that all together. The second song came about via a friend of mine, Chris Thigpen, who is an extraordinarily talented musician. And he was looking for someone to write a song about what it's been like as a musician during the pandemic. And funny enough, we had met up for lunch with Trey, my husband, like the week before, and I've always been able to be extremely real and candid with Chris. I think that's something that I really value about our friendship, is that it's always, how are you? Not, hey,
Mhm. Yeah.
he wants to know deeply like how you're doing, which
Mm.
I really appreciate. It's the culture in LA tends to cater to the, hey, how are you? And you don't really talk about
Right.
how are you.
Yeah.
So I love that about Chris. Our conversations are always really, really great. So the week before, we were getting lunch, and we were just talking about how it's been strange. It's been weird. It's been
Mhm.
downs. It's been depression. It's been anxiety. And he came to me the next week being like, I know how you felt, and I know how you were speaking to me, and I really would love to have you on this project to
Mhm.
write a song about what it's been like to be a musician. And Together Alone is what came out of it. And instead of it being kind of an introspective take, like an inward look on how am I feeling, how do I need to get the noise out of my head type of thing. Together Alone is more about the collective experience and
Right.
what we were perceiving. You know, the fires here in California, the political unrest, Black Lives Matter, all of these different things were just accumulating and coming to a head right at the same time. And I'm just so grateful that Chris wanted me involved on a song that has been one of my favorites to date, actually.
Yeah.
Historically, I've only really written about like love interest relationships.
Hmm.
Current boyfriend at the time.
Right.
So it's been a real cool thing for me to delve into more current,
Hmm.
I don't want to say topics, but movements, things that are
Yeah.
happening in real time that have become extremely important to me, that I try to make sure every day that I'm learning something so that I can understand and
Yeah.
contribute to conversation and have facts and have the proper thing to say, you know?
You were definitely writing about the human experience. And I think that's been kind of across the board for all the artists that we've spoken to in our interviews about the pandemic and how it shifted, the way they've lived their lives as musicians, the way they see things, the things that are going on in the world. So they're, obviously as a writer, you're going to be writing about things that, that are going on in the world, how you're feeling, how others are feeling. And I guess the inspiration comes from that. And I think the human experience, the collective human experience can be something that maybe Together Alone is showing as well.
Mm. Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and another thing that I loved from that release was the artwork. It was just so, it spoke volumes. It was just like a good representation of what that song was about, the collective. You had all these newspaper clippings in the room. Whose idea was that to design that set?
You know what? We were originally thinking about a newspaper suit for me.
Wow.
Like a plain black room and have me in like some type of printed newspaper or something to symbol.
Right.
But as we were trying to find spaces to do the actual shoot in, we came across this room that was called the newspaper room, and we were looking at it going, this is just too perfect. It
Hmm.
really represents just the onslaught of information we get every single day from media and social media and whatever type of outlet you draw from.
Hmm.
And so going into this space, it just really brought everything together. We had a completely different album cover initially for Together Alone. And once
Hmm.
we got space, we were like, we have to change it. It's just it's so much more appropriate for what this song is about and what we've all been feeling throughout the year.
Right. Yeah, it was a great design, and I think it was a Trey that took that picture of you sitting on the TV. Trey's really
Hus-
great.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another amazing song. It was added to the official Spotify playlist on their vocal jazz playlist, and that garnered a lot of streams. That was an amazing thing that happened for you with that song. I mean, your vocals obviously were spot on. They were just so soothing and just so you. And it's funny because you were a folk artist before, and then you went to jazz. So
Yeah,
really showing your jazz side in that song was really nice to hear.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Um, so contrasting now from we went from the quiet black and white to Together Alone, which had, it was dark, but it had a little color coming in. And now there's Tingle, full color.
Full color.
Full color, very colorful. We were both wearing yellow because the cover of Tingle is yellow, guys. So tell us about Tingle that we just released last Friday. This one's more upbeat, more colorful. And would you say it's more you?
That's a really good question. You know, you're bringing up like going from initially being a folk artist when I started out, being very acoustic singer-songwriter to moving to a jazz arena, which I wouldn't have never thought that I'd be putting out a jazz song. Jazz is something that I learned about heavily in college, and to me, for those to learn about those roots, and then for me, Canadian Filipina kid to come in and sing a jazz song about current events, specifically based off of an immediate viewing and experiencing of America at the time. It was just I would have never have guessed, and I'm very honored to be able to put a song out there and to be able to call it jazz because I know that there are very, very deep roots there.
Mm-hmm.
So with Tingle being way more pop and way fun and goofy and silly, I feel like these songs are a really good representation of my personality. And I think that you know, I've been trying to find my voice again, my artist voice, for a long time, because I hadn't put music out for 10 years prior to the beginning of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Putting out these singles has allowed me to continue to hone the direction that I want to move in terms of what I sound like, because I know that I've been all over the map. I totally know that. Going from jazz to complete, like, I guess, new wave pop, mainstream pop, it's just so, like, one page to the next.
Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, very well written songs.
So I
discredit.
So Tingle, to me, yes, I do feel like this song represents who I am, but Together Alone very much represents who I am. The Quiet very much represents who I am. A couple songs last year that I released, Fire Breather represents who I am. Astronomical Love represents who I am. And humans are complex. It's interesting when you're trying to put yourself in a box and see, this is where I'm coming back to that crossroads thing, is
Right.
that with music, I am just such a lover of music. So it's really hard for me to kind of think in one vein or one genre where
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately that's how you're more palatable to people. That's you're more easily marketed if you have a certain type of, this is their shtick,
Mm-hmm.
this label them, this is the box that you can put them in. But for some reason I just like, I'm like, no. But I've been really enjoying being able to just discover myself after so many years of not writing and not expressing myself through this medium.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, short answer, yes, Tingle is definitely an accurate representation of who I am. That's the goofy side of me. That's the side of me that loves to laugh and loves to be an idiot and loves to make stupid choices and you know, be carefree and fun. But there's also very much a side of me that's very serious and very introverted and introspective and overly empathetic in a way where I just like,
Yeah.
I feel the need to make sure that if there's pain around me, that the people that are feeling that pain, that I carry it for them. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, it's not a self-martyr thing or to
Mm-hmm.
be like, "Hey, I'm feeling your pain too." I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
just think there's something to be said about being empathetic and sympathetic in a world where there seems to be very little of it these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I love being, what's the word for it?
Authentic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just multifaceted in who
Yeah.
I am as a human and letting each single kind of speak to that. I think it's been a fun thing for me to be able to get closer and closer to what I feel will eventually be the
Mm-hmm.
solid, this is my genre, this is how you can label me. But for now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun putting out all of these songs. It is representing different sides of your personality. Tingle is such a cute and fun song, and Trey's in it. Your husband's in it. Did you
yeah,
write this song about him?
I did. So
Oh.
all of the references about, you know, the almond butter of your eyes, like he's got these gorgeous hazel eyes that change and just the way that he laughs and the way that he moves and I don't know. I know a lot of people don't believe in like love at first sight or soulmates or whatever, but I also feel like while that can be a reality, it also takes work. And Trey's somebody who's been willing to put the work in with
Mhm.
me and vice versa. And that's what makes him my person. And I'm so, it's so cool that we were able to put how we initially first collaborated together onto screen. So Trey used to be my percussionist in college. Like it worked out that when my sister and I were younger and in the folk music community, she was my percussion player, and it was great. I loved that era of my life with her. I do miss it a lot. She's doing that with her husband now and out in Toronto, Emily Schultz and Jordan Hart.
She's amazing.
College, I was missing my percussionist. So lo and behold, would have it that Trey was missing his guitarist and vocalist, and we were like, this totally makes sense. We should play together whenever we can.
Hmm.
It blossomed into what it was, and we've been together ever since our senior year of college, which is really phenomenal. And it's super cool for me to be able to have a video that represents the joy that
Hmm.
he reminds me to be silly. He reminds me to chill out a bit and not be as serious and not be as rigid,
Hmm.
and helps me combat a lot of these I guess things that would be like the anxiety inducing things in my life. He
Hmm.
a lot of the light in my life, and I'm really grateful for him. So to have that in a music video is even cooler.
We definitely see that kind of relationship between you two in the video. It's really nice to see that he does bring out that fun side of you in this video. But you are fun. I mean, we watch you on Instagram. You're going out and get your coffees and your Filipino food and all that stuff.
I
You have a good time.
definitely try to.
Yeah. So great song, great video. If you guys haven't seen it yet, you have to watch it. The color changes, the costume changes, the little cute, little nuances that you'll see in terms of body language too. It really plays into what the song talks about. It's really nice to watch and to listen to. Super catchy. I love the little dance moves that you guys do in there too when the beat hits. I see that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Those little details I love. So Tingle, what's after Tingle now?
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we're on a roll, for not having put out music for so long. Now I feel like we're just boom, boom, boom. And I'm so excited for stuff that's to come. I feel like I'm getting, like I said, closer and closer to what I believe that my all the time sound could be as a musician. And I'm getting more into the flow of writing more regularly, whereas before the pandemic hit, I just had no time for anything. It was
Hmm.
making money, paying the bills, making sure you had, your bag, and like I didn't have time for anything. And so with the pandemic, I think like you were saying, there was just a lot of reevaluating of what I wanted to do when
Right.
life got back to a functioning sort. And making time for my own music was like top three for sure. I was just realizing how much more excited I was and happy I was and fulfilled I was having this outlet to be able to create again. Like the reason why I'm performing here in wedding bands or doing what I do for money is because I originally got into music loving being able to write and play. And
Right.
so yeah, that has evolved into this push to be like, okay, keep writing. What else can we come up with? What's the next song? Like what is the vibe that it's going to take on? Like what
Mhm.
are wanting to write about? What do I want to put forth in terms of content? Is it going back to relationships? Is it talking about how I have ups and downs as a person, and some days I'm incredibly happy, and then the next day I want to sit on the couch and not do anything because I'm feeling awful and I don't know the reason. So I think there's a lot of writing about just the human experience and aspects coming up of how you don't have to be perfect every day. You don't have to be
Yeah.
on every day. Not every day has to be a home run. You don't need this many followers to be happy. You don't need this many streams to be validated as a human being or whatever your
Right.
version of that, you know? It's when we're hit with so much every single day via
Mhm.
social media and the news, it's hard to kind of remember that we
Yeah.
as humans are really made to have that many people in our circle.
Yeah, exactly. Too much energy going on.
Yes, there's so it's overwhelming and yeah, I'm really enjoying being able to write more about the modern day human experience, uh,
Hmm.
which I think we're all trying to figure out as the internet evolves into whatever it's evolving into. I think that
Yeah.
it's kind of at the root of a lot of these weird issues
Hmm.
we're having, and so I don't know, being able to write songs like this, it's forcing me to not forcing me, but it's more enticing to talk to people, to hear stories, to understand your journey and where you've come from and why do you tick the way that you do or like what sets you off or I don't know. I've just I love people and I love hearing about experiences and collecting perspectives and I
Yeah.
really hope that I can continue to bring that into my music and write from a point where I'm not trying to be the voice for anybody, but
Hmm.
just trying to write about what is a real life human experience.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're even navigating your own person too by meeting all these different people and living all these different experiences and situations in the life that we've been living in the last 2 years too. It sounds like you're going from the growth of relationships to a kind of like a relationship with yourself, like a discovery in that relationship with yourself.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic was and is has been an opportunity for a lot of people to have that pause.
Hmm.
Life was just so this every
Yeah.
day, and you just have no time to think about anything that might be weighing on you or ailing you or not have the safe space to be able to talk about these things. And um, for me, I that was one of the good things that came out of the pandemic for me was realizing that I am shouldered with anxiety. I am shouldered with like some mild depression. I am shouldered with the confusion of being
Hmm.
a person and where I belong and what does my future look like as a musician with this pandemic. There was so much that you had to deal with and you had to think about.
Right.
Um, I'm grateful for that because it's kicked off this desire for me to truly understand myself and what I need and what I want to give, you know, to community, to be kind, to just be a good human. And I think in order to be able to be a good human and be a better person for other people, I need to do that for myself first.
Exactly. That's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, this was such a great interview. We've gone on, so many great topics here, great conversation. When can we hear the next releases from you? When are you expecting to release those, or are you going to be releasing anything anytime soon?
Yes, I fully intend to be releasing at least one more song before the end.
Ooh,
And I'm really proud of this one coming up. I think that it just feels so much like me more than ever. So I'm really excited. Stay tuned, hashtag, all, all that stuff. But yeah, before the end of the year for sure, I would love to put out at least one more song.
amazing. So we're looking forward to hearing that. You've got such a beautiful voice, such a nice, beautiful personality. And we know that your music is going to resonate with so many listeners. Tell your audience or this audience where they can find you.
Totally. So I'm on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, anything you can think of. Spotify, you can find my music there. Apple Music, you can find my music there. I have a YouTube channel. If you're wanting to keep track of the music videos I'm putting out, it's super exciting. This is something that I've really never done before this year. So you can find me on YouTube and pretty much everywhere you can stream music. Just search Samantha Schultz and you'll get this goofy looking girl.
Thanks so much for being on this podcast with us. We had a great time, and we're looking forward to the next release.
Thank Thank you so much for having me, Jay. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye.
You make me